Okay, reading camp teachers, it's zombie week. So what more appropriate game is there than zombies roaming the school? And guess what? We get to be those zombies. The students are going to be trying to collect materials to help them survive. What exactly does that mean? Let's take a look at the proper documents in order to understand how to play it. First up, we have our character sheets. That's what you see in front of you right now. There are two sections to this character sheet. The first is the left-hand side, which is specific to that character, and it's also continuous throughout the week. On the right-hand side, we have the game play, and then also how each of the missions ends after they've collected the items. Next up, we have the game logs. Each day, once we start the game, the students will receive their character sheets, which they've chosen on day one, and will return to each day. And after that, they'll see the day's objective. What we have here is day one, so let me read through it and explain what each of the components means. So on day one, they're going to have 5 minutes to roam around the school, and they're going to be trying to collect 4 different types of items, which I'll go over in just a minute. But their mission is to locate 6 survivors, which is one of the symbols, enough food to feed everyone, not only the group, the team that's in the room, but also the survivors that they collect. And then they have to return back before the time runs out. If they don't make it back in time, then the teacher that's in the room will assign them a wound whenever they come in. I'll show you what that means later. Also, they can only carry 2 items at a time, and they can bring back on this day up to 4 items. So they should really only leave the room twice. Now let's take a look at the character sheets to clarify how they're going to collect these items and how the game actually plays. Okay, this is the character sheet. On the left-hand side, we have our character's name, and this tells us that this is Achilles. He's a warrior. And he is actually from the book The Enemy, and all of the characters that are on these sheets are modeled after characters from the books this week. Also here you have a little bit of a profile on him where it explains why he is the way he is and what ability he has. When you look down below, those character abilities are broken down even further. And this part of the character sheet is actually continuous. So the health that they end up with at the end of today will be their starting health the next day. So when you look at Achilles, he has 4 starting health, and he can gain or lose health this game. The second item that we're looking at here is hunger, and his hunger level is 2, so he's kind of hungry, so that's more of a priority than whether or not he gets wounds, is at least what we want the students to be thinking. Then down below you see his special ability, which is that he can carry an additional item at all times. So he kind of has 3 arms, whereas everybody else is limited to only carrying 2 items. So when we look over here, you can see the gameplay part of the sheet. This gives the instructions how the game actually operates. Now, before they go on their mission is the 5-minute period they're searching for things in the school. Before they go on their mission, they'll read the objective, which we just looked at. Then they'll look at the hand-drawn map of the school and try and think about where they might be able to locate specific items. And then the time will begin. They'll have 5 minutes to go around and find quarter sheets of paper that have these symbols on the paper. What they are able to collect during that time, they'll be bringing back into the room and doing the end of mission play with it there. So they have to regroup before the time runs out to avoid any additional wounds. So if the time runs out, and it'll be over the loudspeaker, then they will receive a wound whenever they walk into the room. Also, when they come back in, they get as many dice as items they collected. So on day 1, they should have no more than 4 dice. Then we do our end of mission. So they've returned back and they need to roll to see whether or not they had a successful mission. So you pop down here to end of mission, and first they get their dice. They got 4 items. They roll 4 dice. And depending on where they want them based off of need, then they can collect certain things. So when you look here, this first one is food. Food, if you roll a 1 or a 2, then it's rotten and you lose a hunger point. So this character would go down to 1 hunger. And you're marking this with an expo marker because these sheets will be laminated. If you roll a 3 or a 4, you get 1 can of food. So his hunger would go up to 1 to 3. And then if you roll a 5 or a 6, then you would receive 2 cans of food. He can either keep both of them, he can give both of them away, because if you see right here, all collected items can now be shared with the group. So he can go up or he can let somebody else go up in his group. The second item that they can collect is a survivor. If they roll a 1 or a 2, then they are bringing back a wounded survivor and they need to actually heal them, or that one does not count. If they roll a 3 or a 4, then they have brought back somebody that's infected. While it does count as one of their survivors, it also deals 2 wounds, and they can deal those out however they decide. And then 5, 6 would be the survivor with 1 can of food. So that's really what you want to roll, because then not only do you get a survivor, but you also gain some food with them as well. The third symbol here is health. And so if they collect one of these and they come back and they roll a 1 or a 2, it doesn't count. If they roll a 3 or a 4, then they're able to heal 1 damage, which would be for their starting health. So this character could be all the way up to 5. If they roll a 5 or a 6, then they can heal 1 and they can give 1 away. And then if they collected this symbol right here, then they have a tool. They have to roll to see whether or not it's useful on day 1 and day 2. And if they roll a 1 to a 3, it's rested and it's useless. So they have a 50-50 chance of actually finding something that will benefit them. If they roll a 4 to a 6, then they get to keep the tool and use whatever it says on the back. There are 3 different items that they can find that are tools. One is a backpack, which acts as an additional hand, so they can collect even more items at a time. The other is a slingshot, and the slingshot fights off a zombie, so that way it cannot deal a wound. That's usable once, and then they have to toss it. And then the third thing is a pocket knife, and the pocket knife gives you an additional roll. So if you rolled poorly and you wanted to re-roll to see if you got a higher number, then that's what the pocket knife is useful for. So that's the character sheet and all the things that it does. We're willing to get together and play a little scenario if you'd like sometime this week, just to kind of help wrap your mind around the way this game operates. And I am here all week and will be happy to help you if you have any questions regarding how this game actually works. So I hope this helps, and I hope you're excited about Zombie Week, because I had fun putting this together. And I hope the kids enjoy it. So thanks for being willing to support us during reading camp.